Welcome, everyone, to the Holstein House podcast. I'm the West Virginia woman, Robin, of RobinHolstein.com and Holstein House, where my guests get a great night's sleep at a fair rate plus breakfast. This is a podcast that looks at society and culture issues affecting families in West Virginia and the United States, from food preparation and storage, gardening, home repairs, current events, and more. We'll go around the table and back in 60 minutes or less. So let's hang out and talk a while. Welcome.
Good morning, all y'all. My name is Robin, and I'm from Holstein House, and this is the Holstein House broadcast. This is episode 132, and today we're going to talk a little bit about what happened with former President Trump, emotions related to it, and our gardens. This is the Holstein House broadcast, and we usually answer your questions, and anytime you have them, on hosting a bed and breakfast from your home, even if you have a small home like we do, and you just have one room to share. We talk about questions and things about that. We talk about your food pantry, preparing food, storing food, this time of year growing food and things going on in the garden and more. And I answer your questions anytime that you ask them. Well, there goes the clock. Yeah, I need to get back down in the bunker to do these, but right now you can tell the voice, it's still bad. Running up and down and going in and out, dealing with the asthma. It's still there. I know you get tired of hearing of it. I get tired of it too. So I apologize for that. But darn it, I lost my place. Anyway, so today is July the 16th. It is Tuesday just after 10 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time here in my part of Kanawha County, West Virginia. And I normally do on my other social media, normally do a little morning quick 30-second post trying to do the shorts and stuff with something from the garden or something with the ducks and the chickens and things like that. I had one ready to go this morning, and then I got distracted and didn't do it. But it has been so hot. I mean, just obnoxiously hot all summer long. It seems like from before Memorial Day weekend. It just has been in the mid-90s to hundreds almost every day with very little relief. Spent a lot more time in the garden watering because we haven't had any at my house. Now, in West Virginia, another place, but here we're at Holstein House, we haven't had any significant rain in, holy cats, a couple weeks or more, and we've had these upper 90 to 100 degree temperatures, and it's really my container garden. It's hanging on, it's doing okay, but it's taking a lot of water. So every morning I'm out there watering. Some evenings, it just depends, when I go out there and look around and see what's going on, I will add some water. We did have a storm come through. I'm kind of already off track, but we had a windstorm come through a couple days ago. My grandnephew, Damien, came in and he said, "Do you have any lemon water?" Because Mr. Holstein likes to drink the Splash. Like it's flavored water and it's flavored with lemon, and we like it better because it's not a very strong. It's just a little hint of flavor. I like the grape. He likes lemon. I like lemon okay too, but I like grape more than lemon. Anyway, Damien came over and asked, he said, "I wanted to get some lemon water before the storm gets here." And I said, "Well, we're not supposed to get a storm for, 45 minutes to an hour yet." And he says, "Well, I looked and it looks pretty bad." And I went outside, and sure enough, downriver, which is the direction we get our storms, it was getting really dark in the sky. And I said, "Oh shoot, the sunroof's up on my car." And I went out to do that. And this was mostly a windstorm. You get those dark clouds when you're having a windstorm. I had this big windstorm blow through and it knocked some of my tomato plants over, a couple of pepper plants over. It tossed stuff on the back porch all to and fro. It was insane. And I was out there. I'm glad it wasn't a thunder and lightning storm because I was out there trying to tie up the cages on my tomato plants and stuff because the containers were getting toppled. It's crazy. But I mean, it just really has been a really peculiar year this year. And you'll have that. You'll have that when you have people, when you're trying to do your garden. Good morning, Stephanie. It's good to see you. I'm glad you was able to make it this morning. Have you guys had did you guys get the windstorm the other day, or did it stop with the mountains over here? But there were several areas. Now, we didn't lose power, but there were several areas around us that lost power. And for, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours. And in Charleston, where the animal shelter is, they lost power out there, and they had put, see, Stephanie, we haven't gotten any rain more than enough to spit, in weeks. It's been crazy. I thought we were supposed to get rain a couple nights ago. Was it a couple nights ago? Can't remember now. But, I kept watching, and when it got to me, it just dried up. It just wasn't to be. Now, over around Elkview and like out Amma, Looneyville, out in that area, they had some pretty good storms go through it, I think. Up around Grafton, I think they had some bad storms, but we haven't had anything here in Diamond for a long time. But my barrels, I do have rain barrels. They're just about dry. But I've been intermixing those. I've not been using them straight out of the rain barrels. I've been using the rain barrels mostly for the poultry, and then kind of half and half rain barrel water and city water on the garden. And it's doing okay, but it takes a lot, especially for a container garden, because the roots can't go out into the soil and collect up water that way. So you have to make sure that they've got plenty. But yeah, I was out there in that wind. It spit rain. I mean, you could feel it, but it didn't even puddle anywhere. And I was trying to tie up my tomato plants and stuff. I'm like, I'm not going to lose these heirloom tomatoes. The Jersey Devil tomatoes, man, they're freaky looking. They really are. One of them is about as wide as my palm, as about that thick, but it's crazy. It's crazy. I can't wait for some of them to get red so that I can, because I don't like green tomatoes. I'm sorry, folks. Green tomatoes are not ready. So I'm anxious for them to ripen up so that I can pick them. Looking forward to that. Otherwise, I'm able to keep the squash bugs down. When I see them, I'm able to pick them off, and the cucumber beetles, I'm able to keep off my squash plants. I don't have any cucumber plants. The pumpkin plant is insane. It's all over the place. It's worse than house ivy. It's everywhere. But I don't see any pumpkins yet. There's tons and tons of flowers, but I don't see any pumpkins yet. So I'm interested in, do you guys have any issues with your garden? I did have, can I do that without messing up my feed? I did have a person, I wanted to use their name, and I didn't get it written down. Over on YouTube, I had a fellow asking about some bugs that they had on their was it their squash plants or their tomato plants? They had these little bugs on their tomato plants, and in the conversation with them, I'm going to try to look up that name real quick because I want to make sure I get it right. I'm out of practice again, you guys. I'm doing the don't want to Let me look this up and see if I can find the comments. Capella Keys is the name of the well, it's not the name, it's the handle of the person on the YouTube channel that was asking me about little bugs on their tomato plants. And I looked and I hunted and searched. I don't have the same issue. I don't have these particular, I haven't seen these particular bugs. Described them as little teeny tiny black bugs, and they appear to be a type of, they're actually even called, I think, a tomato flea. Is it a tomato flea? I can't remember. Anyway, they are a flea-like black speck insect, and I suggested to him or her, could be her, to use the soap and mouthwash mix that I've talked to you guys about before, or at least in my shorts I've talked about them. When you use that, the point of the treatment with the dish soap and mouthwash, and sometimes weak tea, is to create an environment on the plant. The dish soap or baby shampoo, depends on what you have, clears off, washes away the insects. The mouthwash is an antiseptic, an antibacterial, and it helps. And it's not as strong as the stuff that you buy at the store. It's a little weaker, but it's a little, I don't want to say it's natural, because Listerine mouthwash isn't natural, and this is a Listerine type mouthwash, a little brown mouthwash. And the weak tea, just plain old, tea, Lipton tea, also is a deterrent to some of the insects. And I think they mentioned that their plants looked scalded after they used it. There's a few things. If you're going to treat your plants for insects or fungal disease or anything like that, you got to do it either early in the morning or late in the evening. You want to do that before it gets scorching hot, and you don't want the sun on it because it can damage the leaves of your plants. So anytime you're treating, you want to do it either early morning or late in the evening. If you're using a commercial insecticide or even 7 Dust or something, you need to use that when the bees are not active, and that's really early morning or late in the evening, because those things will kill the bees out. Now, it'll kill them. They'll take some of it back to the hive. Sometimes it'll kill the hives. Plus it's just unnecessary. What you're trying to destroy, the insects that you're trying to destroy, you can do that, and it's easier on the plants, especially if you're spraying. I have an organic spray insecticide for, when the other stuff doesn't seem to be working. And you want to use that late in the evening or early in the morning, just to keep from interfering with the bees and the good pollinators, because any of the good insects, even ladybugs, because so I put a little quick video up the other day with just a little ladybug sitting on a squash plant leaf, and that's all it was. And you don't want to use an insecticide and kill the ladybugs, because the ladybugs are eating mites and things that are on and things that are on the plants that could hurt them. So you want to be careful when you're using these things. You don't want to water in the heat of the day. So you don't want to water your plants right now. Where I'm at could be anywhere from 11 o'clock in the morning till 7 o'clock at night, because it's just so oppressively hot. On the front porch in the shade yesterday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it was 101 degrees in the shade on my front porch. Now I'm in Middle West Virginia. It's not supposed to get that hot. So yeah, you got to use good judgment on all of these things. So whenever you're treating your plants for insects or bacterial infection or fungal infection, use caution. Use your brain a little bit. Don't do that in the heat of the day. All right, I ramble. I've got to get back into practice on doing these and quit rambling and and ahhing. And it's my fault, guys. Oh, just real quick on the B&B side, I had put a listing on what's called AirBTC, which is it's not a sister site because they're not really related. It's a comparative site to Airbnb, but people pay with Satoshis or Bitcoin, small fractions of Bitcoins called Satoshis. And I had set the entire thing up, had the pictures up, had the rate up, had all of these things ready to go. And then AirBTC, it didn't quite shut down, but it shut down. So it was there was a negotiation, there was a revamp of the servers that was supposedly being bought out, and I hadn't heard anything else. Well, strangely, this morning I got an email from AirBTC that said they were back up, ready to rock and roll, and for people to get their listings posted again. I'm going to look into that some more this week and see what's going on with it. I'm a little hesitant now. I was very interested in it at first, and I don't mind the idea of accepting Satoshi for as payment. I have a little bit. My knowledge of Bitcoin is just enough to get in trouble. So I don't mind the idea. The problem gets to be is the wild fluctuation in the comparative worth of Satoshi or Bitcoin fractions to fiat dollars US. Now, this is, if you think of the idea behind Bitcoin is to get away from associating it with fiat dollars. But that's all I've got. That's all I've got. I don't have anything else to relate it to. So right now, this morning, I think it was this morning, Bitcoin was up to, I want to say $60,000 US for one coin. Let me see if I can get in there real quick. Just to see what it says. 63,895 US dollars for one coin. Now, you don't actually have one coin, but if you had a physical coin, that's how much it would be. So the fractionals of that are called Satoshis. So if one coin, was split up, like in pennies, it's not exactly that, but if you think of a dollar as being split up into pennies, then that's kind of how it works. Not exactly. But this swings wildly. This time last Friday, it was at 57,000. So it has really swung wild, and it makes it almost impossible to me to determine what I need to set the room rate at. Because if I set it at, let me just use one Bitcoin per night, which is outrageous. It's just an example. There was, what did I say it was? 63. There was $6,000 in swings just in the past few days. It's not unstable in that it's about to collapse. I don't mean that. It's unstable for me. I just have no way of saying, okay, give me 10,000 Satoshis, and because it's just such a wild swing. So I'm going to have to give the AirBTC some more thought before I go and update and redo that. And I like the idea of it. I really do, but I don't know if I can make that work, and if it's worth. I don't want to say if it's worth it, but if it's a good use of my time, because I've just pulled in so many directions right now. It's crazy. There's nothing really new going on other, because I'm dealing with this stupid asthma. I go outside and I start gasping for air. So I actually went down in the basement and got some of the old Rona masks and out to wear outside. And I just dread the thought of doing that because they just wear me out. And I've got some older ones that have, they're like scarves and that you wear across your face, but they've got a little activated charcoal filter thing that goes in a little pocket in the front so that you can filter all that out. And they look a little, well, they're a little different looking than the old, surgical looking masks that you wear, but I'm going to get those back out. I'm baffled. I've gone through the series of steroids. I've been using the inhaler. I was able to back off that one rescue inhaler a little bit until about 6 o'clock last night. And around 6 o'clock last night, I thought, started noticing a cough again. I thought, well, 6 o'clock's about when I, use the one inhaler, the Qvair. And someone hadn't used it, and I'm on a pill. I forget the name of the pill. For it. It's an allergy pill that's also used for asthma spells. Pardon me. And use it like it's supposed to, but I'm almost finished. I've got like one more dose of the steroid, and then I'm finished that round of steroid. I mean, it feels like it's bothering me again. It's like it went away for a few days, and then now it's creeping back up. And it's got to be the air. It's got to be the air and the weather doing it. That's the constant changing thing, going outside and it's getting so hot and all that. Who knows? If you've ever experienced trouble with asthma, I'd love to know how you pinpoint what sets yours off. And maybe it's not asthma. Maybe asthma is the first step. Maybe it's COPD, or heavens, I would hope it's not emphysema, but heavens only knows. You think you're invincible when you're young and you do all kinds of stuff. You don't realize that you're just ruining yourself. All right, so that's there. No new projects right now. The asthma was clearing up. Now it's kind of flaking out again. Talked a little bit about the garden. The Jimmy Dardello pepper plant has a ton of peppers on it. There's no more red ones. They're not ready yet. So I'm just anxious for those to get ready. I didn't do anything with the other one. I'm kind of letting it, dry, and I'm going to try to save the seeds in it. But we'll see what happens. The candy cane peppers has a couple of golf ball sized peppers on it. If I can keep from them falling off, and I think they're getting knocked off as I move around in the garden to water things. And the guy that does our grass, I think he may have bumped into it once or twice. So the other pepper plants all have peppers on them, ready to be picked and dealt with. So we'll see. The chickens are struggling in the heat, and the ducks too. They're all starting to hold back. About one stupid broody hen, and dumb thing. I mean, I know that's their biology, but it just aggravates me when they go broody, because I don't have a rooster and they're not producing, and there's no eggs to sit on, so there's no chicks to hatch. It's frustrating. I am on the lookout for, I have already decided what other breeds of chickens I'm looking for. I'm just trying to find a local source. I'm getting messages from places like in Alabama, these states away, we've got those chickens you want. I want them from somewhere local. Thank you very much. I'm not driving that, forget it. So I am working on that. And then we also have, I have updated just real quick, and then we'll get on with talking about the President Trump and his troubles this past week. I have a Facebook page called Weddings by Robin. And I have done a couple weddings. I'm not an ordained minister. These were, this is an online process that you do so that you can legally do weddings in your state and other states, and there's steps you got to do. It's not hard, and it's really not associated. It has to be associated with a church, but there's some online churches that you can work with to do that. And I had done that several years ago and set up a Weddings by Robin page. I got it started. I never did much with it. Didn't do a lot of the weddings anyway. Life gets in the way. Other things go on. And with the closing of my church, I have revised that page to Robin Holstein Ministries. And I do have a video up. I have a few images posted. I just worked on it yesterday, really. So I haven't done a lot with it yet. And the Facebook URL has not been changed by Facebook. I requested that change. It said it was approved, but it would take a while. So it's still listed as Weddings by Robin. And I don't know when that's going to get fixed. Hopefully it'll be fixed in the next few days. But I did that with another page, and I can't remember how long it took to change it. But at any rate, that's up there. I'm going to be trying to work on that. My plan is to at least weekly have a ministry, maybe not even a sermon, but a lesson posted that and to continue that way while I work out where I'm being called, if I'm being called. I believe I am, but I don't know. We've had this we've all had this conversation before. We've talked about it, but I do want to pursue that, see where it leads, see how I can help people find their way or come back to. I think I want to see a lot of, and I would be interested in knowing your view on this as well as a Christian. If you're not a Christian, it's not necessary to bash people about it, okay? This is a question. If you're a Christian, and in your social media feeds, other Christians that you're associated with, do you see a lot of the, it may not actually say, if you don't get right with God, you're going to hell, but that's the underlying message of the memes. And what I think may be happening, it's not so much that, in my belief as a Christian, I believe that if you don't accept Christ, you will go to hell. I'm not going to sit here and point my finger and say, you're going to hell, you sinner. I don't think that's what I'm on this planet for. I think I'm here to say, I'm worried about you. I'm concerned that this is the path you may take, and I'd like to show you a better way. Then it's up to them to accept the better way or not. And if they don't, I have to move on. I can't force you. I know there's been many times through the history of man that people think that you can force someone to believe a certain way. You can force them to behave and act like they believe, but you can't force them to believe. So I see a lot of these posts that assume that everyone who sees understands who Jesus is. And I don't know that in today's world, that's true. because if you think about it, part of the reason my church closed was there was no younger generation to come up and take things on. It didn't grow the proper way. The people who had raised their children in the church, those children had moved away. They didn't bring in new people. There weren't children in the church. There were at least a generation, if not more, in the community who had very little, if any, understanding what who Christ is and the point of his time on this earth. So I think there's a lot of people that don't get it. Maybe they get the idea that, Christmas manger, yay. But I think there's a lot of adults, young adults maybe, from teenagers and all that had little to no exposure to who Jesus Christ is, what the point of him being here on earth was, and why it's important to them. So I'm thinking that's maybe where my role is with my ministry, is to help those people who are lost or confused. Maybe they fell away. I mean, that's one of the things that just about any ministry does. If you've left Christ, come back. It doesn't matter what you've done, we'll take you back. But I really think there's a lot of people out there who are lost that are like, I don't know what I'm missing. I don't understand Jesus. What's the deal? So I think that's where I'm going to focus on that page. And again, that's Robin Holstein Ministries. I actually also have set that up on Rumble, and I have the one video up on Rumble that I did yesterday, and we were also talking about what happened the weekend with former President Trump. And I think I'll use that to segue, as I like to say, into that topic now, and we can talk about that now. By now, everybody knows. I can't imagine, unless you've been incapacitated or out of the country, even if you were out of the country, you probably know about it right now, that someone, a young man, a 20-year-old, to me, he's a kid, he's 20. When I was 20, felt like I was grown. A 20-year-old young man climbed on a building, crawled across the top of the building at a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, and took aim and shot at former President Trump while he was there at a rally. Amazingly, he only clipped his right ear. Bled quite a bit, but could have been a lot worse. There's a lot of people, a lot of talking heads going on about, God was there and God intervened, angels were there. And I even saw this morning, I think it's Eric. Eric is his younger son, not the youngest son, but the second son, saying, well, it happened a year to the day that their mother passed away, because his Donald Trump's older children, are with his wife, Ivana, and the daughter's name is Ivanka. I think it's the way it is. Anyway, it happened a year to the day that she died, and we know that she intervened. Well, I don't believe that. And I'm not trying to take anything away from the Trump family and their grief and their shock and all these things. I do not believe, because it does not tell me in Scripture, that there's anybody in heaven, any human that made it to heaven, that can intercede in anything down here on the earth. And I don't believe we get messages from our dearly departed. I don't believe that they can, send you little cardinals or butterflies or anything. I get why people do that. People need to feel connected still with the people that they love that are gone. And they see things and they think good thoughts, and they want to think that this person is it. But, when you get down to it, that's not, I don't believe that's how it works. So I don't think that Ivana was up here in heaven and said, oh, somebody's going to shoot my ex-husband and father of my children, so I'm just going to enter and twist his head just a little bit. She'd probably have twisted it all the way off. Most ex-wives would. It's very, but the fact of the matter is that the country is still in a state of shock, and so is former President Trump and his family and the people who were in attendance there. And it is a big deal. But I'm seeing people diminish. Well, I mean, there have been actually people who put on social media that if you're going to take a shot at him, you should practice more so that you don't miss. This is abhorrent. This is terrible things to say. And these people are in government agencies. And sometimes in leadership positions. There is some really, really bad blood going on in our political world. And we are devolving into a second or third world nation politically. I really am concerned. It is one thing to have a difference of opinion on how our government should be run. That's why we have differing political parties. People have differing views. We go to the polls on election day. We cast our ballots of who we prefer. And, in the case of the president, of course, we have the electoral college, but for the most part, it's he who gets the most votes win. He who gets the most points in the electoral college wins at the presidential level. And then we go through, and we did for a long time, up until recent history, a peaceful transfer of power. And in my history, and it's not necessarily the only history, but in my history, in my memory as an adult participating in the election of our leadership, the Al Gore, George W. Bush election, with all the pregnant Chads and all of the punched Chads and all of the dimpled Chads and all of the Chads, where there was a contested outcome of a presidential election that stalled the announcement of the winner. That was it. And it was Florida, bless your heart, Florida, you took a beating over that. And people just moaned and groaned, is this all going on? And for those of you who may not be old enough to remember, see if I can use this emblem. I don't know if you can see it or not. So down in Florida, they had machines where you took a little pen or a little device about yay big, and you punched out the holes in a piece of cardboard ballot tally sheet. And when you punched box 7, that means that whoever was assigned box 7 on that ballot is who got your vote. Well, what would happen, because people were contesting it so bad, I don't know if you can, you would have something, can you make out this little dent right there? Well, so the perforated little Chad is what they were called, little square perforation, that you had to punch out so that the computer could read your vote in a punch card reading machine, wouldn't have come apart. So whether it was a manufacturer defect, I don't know. I don't remember. It's been too long ago. So there were people saying, well, I voted for Al Gore and it didn't count my vote. And we hear a lot of it today with some of the electronics. It was a big reason why we have the computerized balloting and election machines and all that stuff now. And we all know computers screw up, or computers can be screwed up by whomever programs them, but that's a different topic. So what would happen is people would say they punched this ballot and it didn't count, and so the votes were undercounted for Al Gore, and so George Bush won, and Al Gore sued and said, no, this isn't right. This isn't right. There's shenanigans going on here. It went on into I think it went into January, early January, before it actually went to the U.S. Supreme Court, and the U.S. Supreme Court had to rule, on how this was going to come out. And that's why a lot of people got mad and said the U.S. Supreme Court is for this candidate. Well, no, this stuff was laid out here, and they said you can't just keep doing this. So what ended up happening is they wanted to take a representative sample of ballots and then extrapolate those numbers to the rest of the state, because Florida is one of the big states with the electoral points. And Al Gore didn't like it. He didn't like the outcome. And he was trying to sue to get the rest to all of them. And I mean, this was going on for weeks. And so he was contesting that election. Well, it was awful. It was awful for the country to go through. But our Constitution and the steps that were placed in the Constitution worked. Then, I mean, and that was the only time. I mean, there were other times when at local, state, and national levels that there were challenges to ballots and challenges to elections and challenges to this, that, and the other. But no one has successfully refused to leave office and peacefully transfer in, meaning we didn't have to call in the National Guard, we didn't have to call in the U.S. Army, Air Force, Marine, Space Force, whoever, to force someone out of the White House. So there's always been, since the early days of this country, a peaceful transfer of power. But it's getting dangerously close to a time where I don't know that that's going to happen much longer if we don't get a hold of our emotions related to politics. There are a lot of important issues that we all hold dear. Free speech is a big one. I have a right I have a right to stand in the public square, wherever the public square is, and say whatever I want to say, as long as it doesn't incite violence. That's the caveat. You can't incite violence. I can't stand in the public square, which decades ago there was actually, you had the courthouse square, that the campus, the grass, that was a public square. And you could go there and you could say whatever you wanted to say. Incite violence. You can't break the law. You can't stand in a public square and shoot somebody and say, that's my freedom of speech. I thought he should be dead, so I shot him. You can't do that. But we have become so intolerant of other people's differing opinions that we're at each other's throat all the time. I mean, all the time. I have a bumper sticker on my car and somebody keys my car, I'm wearing a t-shirt downtown and somebody spits at me. These didn't happen to me. These are just examples. I want to put a flag up in my front yard and somebody tries to burn it down, comes on my property and takes down the flag. This is wrong. These are these behaviors are not acceptable behaviors. But we have gotten to the point where we say, oh, well, you have to understand this person that's made them feel very, it's triggered them. It's made them upset. No, you don't get to throw a tantrum just because you don't like something. We've gotten away from that in this country. Now, I'm not saying people should be rounded up and put in jail. Just don't freak out. We have got to start accepting that there are people in this country who don't think the same way we do. I think life begins at conception. This person over here may not think that. I think abortion should be very, very, very rare. This person thinks you should be able to get it whenever you want. I think men should have the right to say, don't abort my child, I will raise him or her. These people over here saying the woman should not have to put her body through all of that. So these are some of the more hot button issues. I'm going to vote for the person who most closely, keyword being closely, reflects how I see things and what I believe in. I'm not voting for a pope. I'm not voting for the Savior. I'm not voting for the Messiah. I'm voting for a government leader. There is no perfect government leader. We're not going to get 100% of what we want. And we have failed to share this with our young people, our children, the children of our communities. And we have this year seen these protests, not just this year, because you go back a few years ago when it was at Portland, where they had that area that the protesters cordoned off and said, there's no law here, and you can't come in. This is CHOP, or this is Chaz, or this is something. And they were burning things. They tried to burn down a federal building. And I mean, just people out of control. And we tolerated that, or they tolerated that in that community for a long time. You can't tolerate that behavior. You tolerate that behavior, you're just inciting more destruction of other people's property and the potential loss of life, and beating at people who don't agree with them and robbing them. And we're seeing even groups of people going in to businesses and robbing them blind. And then the businesses shut down, and the community leaders are getting mad at the businesses for pulling out. Do you see the insanity of this cycle? And so this has been building up for several years. And we have leaders who say, I'm the one to take care of this problem. I'm the one. And if you look in their history, they're part of the problem. Okay? They've been there. They've created some of these laws that allowed some of this stuff to happen. We have to stop and think, what are we doing? And we need to do that without the emotion of, I hate this person, I hate that person. The tolerance of hatred, and in my video yesterday, I'll link to, I talk about in my ministry video from yesterday, and I will link that below, as people like to say. I talk about, as a Christian, we're not allowed to hate. Hatred is, we are instructed, we are told in the New Testament that hatred is akin to murder, that you cannot claim to be a Christian and hate someone. And yet there are people in this country who claim to be Christians who hate certain politicians so vehemently that they're spouting on television, I hope they get killed, or I hope they die, or they're like a Nazi, or they're like this, or like. We can't do that as Christians. We can't. You can get mad all you want, but in your anger, don't sin. Anger in itself is not sin. Okay? You can watch that other video for more information on that. But so now we've come up, and I'm trying to go full circle. And, it's hard to do when you're sitting here by yourself and things keep popping up and you don't have anybody to bounce it back and forth off of. But now we have a 20-year-old young man, barely out of high school, who takes it upon himself for whatever reason, because at this point, I haven't seen anything that says they know why he did this. Okay. I don't know why he did it. I haven't heard anything that said why he did it. He knew enough not to put it out there anywhere. Now, I understand they have already, the FBI have already cracked his iPhone. Didn't take him very long, really. Saturday to Tuesday, Monday evening, Saturday to Monday to crack the iPhone. So, keep that in mind, people. They can get into your iPhone when they want to. I understand they have a laptop that's supposed to be the young man's, and they're working on trying to see if there's anything in it that give them any idea. But we have had a 20-year-old young man, just 20, try to assassinate the once and probably future president of the United States. And now he's dead because all of the other things that was done wrong, that allowed him to have the amount of time on that roof to get set up to take a shot. Anyway, the sharpshooters took him out. Now he's dead. And his parents, I don't know if he has any siblings or not, but his parents and his community are tore up because how did this happen? What was wrong with this child? What was going on? The parents can't properly grieve yet. They don't understand why their son was where he was. And the FBI have been in their house and gone through all of their things in their home, taking things out that belong to their son. So the grieving process, if it had been a car wreck, they'd at least have their home to live in while they started the grieving process and started funeral service planning. But they can't even do that. There's a father who was killed, whether it was the bullet that hit the president, that went and killed that man, I don't know. But if it was a different bullet, a ricochet, or whatever it may have been. But there's a man that's dead who had children, who had a community. I believe he was a volunteer fireman. He's gone because of this 20-year-old's hate. There are people who were injured. I'm not sure if it's 2 or 3, but there was 2 or 3 other people that were injured in the hospital. Their families are upset. All of the thousands of people in attendance, the Secret Service, who are now just bumfuzzled because how did this happen? We were supposed to keep this from happening. The local law enforcement, how did we let this happen? This was our area and we blew it and we almost lost the president because of one child's hate. One child's hate. And this child's hate was likely, and I have to say likely because we still don't know why he did it, fueled by the hatred of people around him, people he associated with, people he was reading about online for this man that's running for office. The common denominator is hate. And we have to work as a nation to overcome that level of hatred. There's going to be things in our lives we don't like. There's going to be things we don't agree with. There's going to be things that we absolutely can't stand. But we have got to get a hold of our emotions. We've gone from, okay, there was a shot, the president's bleeding, he's whisked out of there, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, and the current sitting president says we need to dial back rhetoric. We need to stop, being this way. That was just Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, 3 days, not quite even 3 days because I'm going to go 24-hour day, but within 3 days, 3 calendar days, we're back to the same crap. He's going to destroy democracy. He's not going to destroy democracy. He didn't destroy it the 4 years before he was in. And the Supreme Court you like the Supreme Court when they rule the way you want them to. It's just when they don't rule the way you want them to that you don't like the Supreme Court. Heck, they rule all the time on stuff that I disagree with. I'm not protesting in front of their homes. I'm not going to the Capitol building and spitting and throwing and painting stuff. We're so out of control. It's insane. Absolutely insane. We have got to, as a nation, dial this crap back. We have got to get back to where we can disagree without hating each other. I blame the schools. I don't really blame the schools. The schools are the communities and the way the communities want things to happen. That's what's going on with the schools. However, there are certain things that we took out of the schools that I think young people need. One of them is speech or debate classes and civics, so that we understand how all of this stuff works. There are young people, and I say young, I'm 59, so anybody under 50 is young people to me. Young people have no clue that you don't get to stand on the stairs of the U.S. Supreme Court and demand something be done and expect it to be done. The Supreme Court doesn't work that way. They're digging through, and I don't care for all of the Supreme Court justices, their views and opinions, and some of them are way out there I don't agree with, but anyway, they study the law. They go back and they look at the Constitution. They look at the law. They put all of these things together and decide you can or cannot do this. You can do this, or you're limited to this. People, the immunity thing that they just ruled on here a few weeks ago. They never said that the commander-in-chief, the president of the United States, regardless of who he is, has complete and total immunity for everything. And yet, you have people on the news and you have people in programs like this shouting, oh, Trump got away with everything. He can do anything he wants. Well, that applies to your guy too, except that you're wrong. There are certain things that they're allowed to do that they cannot be prosecuted after they leave office for. Other stuff that they can't do while they're in office and expect to never be prosecuted for it. The sitting president of the United States, whoever it might be, the one that's in there now that don't know what day of the week it is, or the one that's probably going to be there this time next year, whoever so many of you guys just absolutely think is going to blow up the world, can't just walk up to somebody in the street and cut their heart out and not be prosecuted for it, even if they're in office, because that's not part of their job description. That's not part of their duties. So yes, a president, he or she, regardless, it's, sometimes at some point it's going to be a woman, can't just go out and stab people and they can get away with it. It's about their job description. The immunity relates to their duties and responsibilities as president. Congress, which is, by the way, don't forget, both the House and the Senate. Okay. So when you say congressman, it applies to both the House and the Senate, not just the House. But anyway, I do believe, unless this has been changed, and I think it would have been an uproar if it had been, while they are in Congress, are exempt from a heck of a lot of laws. If they're standing up giving a speech in their house on the floor of whichever side that they're on, and they say something absolutely reprehensible, they can't be prosecuted for it because they're doing it in the course of an act, an official act. We see it. We see it often. You have people say, I know exactly, I've got all this evidence, and then they never produce it because they don't have to. In the course of doing their job, there's a lot of stuff they don't have to do. It used to be in West Virginia, before the state house legislature changed the rules, and this is rules, not laws, but rules, that even though out in the community you couldn't smoke in a public building, you could smoke if you were a legislator in the Capitol building in West Virginia, because you didn't have to go by the same rules because you were there in your official capacity. It's crazy, I know. But what we have here, and I'm going to start wrapping this up because I've already rolled an hour and I haven't said a whole lot of anything. What we have here is people who have lost control of their emotions. And this is insane. And we have got to get ourselves back into control. You know, when we are engaging in political activity, that doesn't give you the right to violate someone else's constitutional rights. I might stand up and say something absolutely vulgar that this person over here doesn't like. Hang on. I don't know if you can hear that or not, because I thought I had the microphone set to where it wouldn't pick up something, but you may have heard it anyway. It was the cuckoo. I might say something absolutely vulgar. Well, the Klan is a perfect example. Okay, the Klan, the Ku Klux Klan, they can get permits to march down the street. They can shout all kind of vulgarity and nasty and terrible things. They have a constitutional right. I don't like it, but I can't stop it. Okay, you can't deny their permit as a city, as a governing body, just because you don't like what they're going to say. And yet we have a lot of people trying to do that. Now, on something like this, whether you're seeing me on YouTube, whether you're seeing me on Rumble, whether you're seeing me on another platform, the people who own that platform can pull the video. They can shut me down because they own it, not me. This isn't public. This is it's a private entity. It's a corporation that owns the platform, but this isn't my platform. If I have my own platform, I can say whatever I want. That's what public square means. We're talking about being in the public square. So if I'm out in the public square, if I'm on government property, a community, the city park, or in front of the public courthouse or whatever, in a public area, I can say whatever I want, even if people don't like it. I can't incite a riot, but apparently you can if you're on college campus. But that's a totally different story. But at any rate, I was going to say I was going to wind it down, and I need to wind it down. But one thing that we have to keep in mind as we go through these days is there was a community affected by the violence of last Saturday, of that young man taking a shot at former President Trump. There's families who've lost people. There was a man that was killed. There was the shooter, his family lost him. There are people hurt. there does need to be investigations. There does need to be, heads roll. Can we still say that? That's their head chopped off by a machete, but there has to be accountability so that this kind of thing doesn't happen again. But when you see Donald Trump and his family out in public right now, you're going to see a little bit of a different man because he has been shocked. And it's going to take him a while to get over it, if he ever truly does completely get over it. And if you've ever experienced some kind of trauma in your life, whether it's on the battlefield, whether it's been in a vehicle accident, whether it's been by someone brutalizing you, whatever kind of trauma you may have experienced, you recognize what you see, what you may have seen, what the news is showing you today when they say, Donald Trump looked different, Donald Trump looked different. Yeah, he did. And it's not funny. It's not funny. It's not cute. And it doesn't need to be tolerated anymore. These television shows that are just full of spit and vinegar, vile, nasty, horrible people who are saying some of the most outrageous and mean and evil things need to be shut down, because they are perpetuating, they are fomenting, they are encouraging violence. If they don't want to shut them down, they need to pull the reins, and they need to say, these are some things that you cannot say on the public airwaves, because remember, you cannot incite a riot, and they're inciting violence on people because they don't agree with their political perspectives. I know I've been all over the place, and I appreciate you hanging out and putting up with it, and I do appreciate you, and hope to see you next time. There'll be some links in the description for some of the things. There'll be a link for the revised Facebook page. It's the old name of it. Hopefully you'll still be able to get to it. If not, it's Robin Holstein Ministries on Facebook. And I'd like for you to stop by and like it and share it and join me in that endeavor. If you have stumbled across this and you managed to get this far and you're not already a subscriber, I ask that you subscribe and click the little button that makes sure that you are aware when new videos come out or next time I go live. And I hate to be rambling like this, I really do, and I apologize for it, but that's just the kind of day it's been today. And I appreciate you, Stephanie, for stopping by. Appreciate you folks over on Rumble for hanging out. I don't know my feed on my phone. I was watching it kind of locked up, so I don't know if it's the phone or if it's Rumble kicked me off or whatever it might have been. But take care of yourselves. I'm trying to get back on track with a little more regular updates, and I appreciate you hanging around, and I appreciate you. And I can't wait to see you again. And be sure and say hello. Even if you're catching the replay, be sure and say hello. All right? Talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.
So there you have it. Post your comments, do all that boosting, liking, sharing, thumbs up, and stuff that helps spread the word and poke the algorithms. Follow me on most of the big social media platforms and look for my name, Robin Holstein, or Holstein House. Till next time, bye-bye.